It's time to do some serious work to this Louisiana Only squad. Through 2 seasons of just disappointing play, we have the superstars, the X Factors, we have the dudes, but the team is just not coming together. So clearly we need to shake things up, and that's exactly what I plan to do this offseason. We wrapped up last episode well back into wildcard weekend. I jumped ahead. We went through the Pro Bowl. We went through the yearly awards, and I could sum it all up for you. Justin Jefferson was a Pro Bowler. No one won any awards. Had a couple guys in the running, but we didn't win anything. And we finished the season 6-11. So not much I want to really go over from the last season besides just the fact that we were 6-11, a losing record once again, and need to make improvements. I will say how the season ended, and that was another Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl. It was the third for them, 35-19 over the Rams. So, yeah, we've seen this before. Jonathan Taylor won Super Bowl MVP, and to the right, you could see the yearly award winners. Obviously, none of which were us. And with all of the recapping already done quickly, we get into actual off-season things, and first is trying to re-sign some players. Now, I would like to bring back Xavier Woods in his time starting. He did actually do pretty well. However, he does not have any interest in coming back to us at this moment. Would require us to just pay him a lot of money, and that's not something I'm looking to do to a 29-year-old safety. So we'll come back to Woods at a later point. I would, however, like to bring back Cade York. I think he did pretty well. Now, he is not interested in anything more than a 1-year deal, so we're offer that, but he wants to test out free agency, so I'll have to come back to him again in free agency. Now, one player who is interested in coming back and may be one of our only options as a backup quarterback is Ryan Griffin. At 34 years old, he's regressed down to a 47 overall, so I'm not going to look to re-sign him, and hopefully there'll be someone else to go after. Now, one player I do want to bring back, even though he has regressed a little bit, is Quan Alexander. And it's primarily because he's been really solid for us, but again, no interest. And that's just the problem that we're facing, considering how bad we have been playing. Now, as a backup offensive lineman, Shadiq Charles does want to come back, and we could definitely use some backup offensive linemen. So I'll go ahead and give him a decent offer here, bump this up, and then knock that down. 2 years, $2 million, he's back. And the only other one with some interest is Duke Riley, but 30 years old, 63 overall. Wasn't going to offer him anything, and everyone else just really did not have much interest at all. So we're going to have some work to do in open free agency, which we're already set to go into. Now, before we do go into it, I do want to talk about a couple things and what I'm hoping to do this off season. So let's start with talking about the possible draftees. Overall, we have a very small amount of Louisiana only players, 12 to be exact. And all of the draftable ones are really over on defense. Now, there are 2 guys on the defensive line that I would like to bring in. Tyquan McKee and Dion Easley, a DT and a left outside linebacker, more so just edge rush. I am planning, if we could find a way to bring both of these players in, switching the defense up to a 3-4. They have not been impressive outside of Arden Key, and Arden Key will continue to be an outside pass rusher for us. But we're struggling against the run, we're struggling against the pass. It's time to change things up because what we have been trying to run is not working. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head what series it was, but we built a fantastic defensive line primarily through the draft. I can't remember if it was the first one, the California Only Challenge, or if it was one of the first few that we did. But that team could just rush the passer, no problem. So I wanted to see if we could kind of redo that, but with some guys who are actually available to us here. So Tyquan McKee and Dion Easley are definitely my top targets. Now, there is a safety who did drop a little bit, projected around 1 to 2, actually around 2 to 3. But he has the zone coverage. We'll find out a little bit of more information on him as we go along in terms of the pro day kind of information, how fast he runs, strength, that kind of stuff. Being 5'9", 209, I'm thinking more of a free safety because he does not have man coverage, but does have some zone. And we do need some safety help. So a possibility there. But where does he go? We're going to have to trade either some players or trade a lot of picks to try to move up because I believe we only have 1 first-round pick. As for the offense, not much to do in terms of drafting players. So we need to change the scheme, and Burrow has been struggling massively in any scheme that we've given him. So we're taking it back to Cincinnati's playbook, because Burrow plays well in real life. So let's see if we could get that out of him by switching to Cincinnati's playbook. They do run a multiple zone run scheme. However, we only match that 55%. So we might need to change some things around. Quarterback, running back, and tight end are good, but everyone else not so much. So some work to do there, and I do plan on using Pittsburgh's defensive playbook with their 3-4 scheme. It's the simplest playbook, so we shouldn't have anything crazy happening out there. But now it's time for us to see what this free agency has in store for us. Are there going to be any big guys to go after? I mean, when you look at the overalls, we do have like some mid and low 80s, but you know, there's maybe something we could try to find here. Just going through, I'm curious of who the best player is, and it's Leonard Fournette, a running back we had before and traded away. And past him, the next best guy is Xavier Woods, a guy I do want to bring back, and he does not have any interest, so we're definitely going to make an offer here for Xavier Woods. And considering not all too interested besides the team just having a franchise quarterback, I'm going to offer him a 3-year deal. Again, he's 29, so this would take him to 32 and the end of the franchise, because again, can only go through 5 seasons. 2.5 for salary and a 1.5 for bonus. I feel like that would be a pretty decent offer, and he thinks it's pretty decent as well. Now, one player I definitely want to bring in, he's not very high overall, only a 71, but is on the defensive line, and we need as much help as possible there. That's going to be in Cam Sample, who played at Tulane. So let's see if we can bring him in for a little bit here. Again, I'm just probably going to give most of these guys a 3-year deal, just so we could try to ensure we have them throughout the possible remainder of this series. And as mentioned not too long ago, I do want to bring back Quan Alexander. He is 30 years old, already down to a 71, so we'll try to just make this a 1-year deal and give him a decent amount of money, because he's been pretty good for us. So I'll make it a 1-year, $4 million offer for him. Now at corner, Greedy Williams is available. I don't think corner is necessarily a position we need to go after. I mean, Cordell Float has been pretty solid for us in the slot, but when these guys pop up, I mean, you kind of feel like you need to go after him. 26 years old, a star dev, has the man, has the press. Tackling is okay. I mean, we'll see who can maybe take over in that slot spot, but overall, just trying to improve the cornerback or even defensive back group in general could be really good for us. So Greedy Williams, 3-year deal. Let's go ahead and bump that up to $2 million. He's already interested in playing with us. Might be a pretty easy signing. And that will fill up all 5 options we have now. A signing I'm going to try that I did not talk about is for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We had him. We traded him. I feel like he could be pretty complimentary to Davis Price. Those two could be a really solid 1-2 punch. Edwards-Helaire did struggle with some injuries when he was with us, so not saying he's going to be for sure the number 1 guy. I'm thinking we'd probably stick with Davis Price. I like what I saw, but if we could also bring in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who kind of replace what we were doing with Darrell Williams. So we're going to see what these guys think. And it looks like 2 have decided what they're going to do, as Cam Sample does have more interest, so we might need to raise that. And we do bring back Xavier Woods and bring in Greedy Williams. So the DB group already looking better. Now we just need to focus on trying to ensure we could help out some other spots. No other interest coming in for Edwards-Helaire or Quan Alexander, so don't need to mess with that. But we might need to mess here with Cam Sample, make this a little bit of a sweeter deal here for him. Bump this up to 3. I think we're already doing 2, so we'll raise it just all over, and hopefully that'll help sweeten the deal. Now adding 2 more players to fill up the open spots, we are giving an offer to Will Kinley, who I believe is a 2nd, maybe 3rd year center from LSU, was a draftee. Hopefully that could just help us with some depth. And the next best backup quarterback is a 59 overall, 31 years old Jeff Driscoll. So offer, see who comes in, and 2 more people yet, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire having more people coming in. So that's one that I don't feel like I have to win. I was just seeing if he wanted to come back, and it doesn't seem that that is the case. Jeff Driscoll does not have any other interest. Now, we do get Quan Alexander and we get Will Kinley, but we do not get the defensive lineman. So, was it Cam Sample? That, unfortunate. And it looks like Cam Sample decided instead to go to the Patriots. So, if we see the Patriots, let's make sure we get the win. Now, for our final round of negotiations, at least in this first stage, keeping the send contract offer out for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, trying to bring back Ryan Wright, the punter, and Cade York, the kicker. Also trying to bring back the DT in Tyler Shelvin, and still trying to find our backup quarterback. So, evaluate for one more time, and, well, some people decided where they were going. Cade York does return, but he seems to be the only new guy, and there was 3 over here. So who did we miss out on? Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He did decide to go with the Titans. Very fitting. But with us still having the lead for these 3, we're going to jump on over to the next stage, see if they sign, but I don't think there's really anyone else for us to go after in free agency. We might need to do some trading, but I want to get through the draft first to see what we have left over to actually trade. So let's change focus to the draft. And speaking of draft, we do have the combine results in for our players. So let's take a look. Tyquan McKee. I mean, about a 5.40. I mean, it's all right. I think as a DT would be solid, or a nose tackle, especially with 38 bench reps. Was also 4th and 3rd in broad and 3 cone respectively. So that's pretty good. 20-yard shuttle, not very good, nor so vertical jump. But I think he's a guy we want to have in the middle of the line. I think him and possibly Devon Godshaw, I think. Those two would make a good tandem. Milton might get moved more to an outside or a 3 tech. Again, we'll kind of have to play with it depending on who we actually do end up bringing in. As for the edge rusher, Dion Easley, he ran a 4.6, really solid, about 30 reps at bench, solid as well. All around good athlete. 20-yard is, not fantastic, but is the only thing he didn't do very well at the combine. So I think in general he should be a pretty athletic dude. Him and Arden Key might team up very easily. And that's not a pun that I intended. As for the safety in Doug Macklin, wanting to play him at free, I think he could do that with a 4.57. Bench reps, solid. Vertical jump, great, as well as broad jump, and 20-yard shuttle first as well. 3 cone a little bit slower, but I mean, all in all, if we could get him in the 2nd or 3rd round, then I think that could be a solid pickup for us at a spot that we do need some help at. And after getting over to stage 2 and going through one evaluation period, we've signed everyone that we have interest in currently signing. So the free agent class looks like this, most of which are just returns. Xavier Woods, Greedy Williams, one new player, Ryan Wright returning, as well as York, Alexander, Shelvin. Do bring in a backup in Will Kinley, and Jeff Driscoll comes in as our new backup quarterback. So outside of Greedy Williams, nothing splashy. You could maybe say Woods, but he's just a returning player for us. But we do bring in some help at the cornerback spot, and hopefully we could stop giving up all the passing yards that we continue to do. Now, with the draft being the very next thing for us to get into, all we have to do is hit start. Let's talk about what we plan on doing in the draft. And the best way to decide what we're going to be doing is by taking a look at the mock drafts. If we go to mock draft 5, this is honestly pretty spot on in terms of how these drafts go unless we change it. Now, our guy, Dion Easley, is slated to actually go to us at 7. So that, fantastic. That's what we want to happen. But we have 2 guys here in the first round we really want to go after, and Tyquan McKee is the second one. He's slated to go at 20 to the Jaguars. Could he potentially go earlier? Maybe. As for the safety that we were hoping, or are hoping to pick up, he's not in this list. He's around 1 to 2. He's actually projected to be around 2 to 3. So makes it a little bit harder on trying to decide what we need to do to get him. Doug Macklin, I mean, he has some interesting tidbits to him. The B-man coverage does have a B tackling and B hip power. I think he could be solid for us at a free safety spot, considering he does have some decent speed. What was it, a 4.57 if I remember correctly? So that is a solid option. However, we did pick up another guy. I will share that after we get through the draft that could play free safety. So if we end up not getting Doug Macklin, it's not the end of the world. Would prefer to get him, but definitely the top two guys we need to go after. Dion Easley slated to go to us, and then a trade back into the first round for the DT and Tyquan McKee. So without further ado, let's get into the draft, make sure we hit our top two, and then from there we can kind of play it by ear, maybe even make some other trades that aren't draftees or for drafting. But that's all next. Main focus is getting our guys. As we saw, we are picking at 7. So let's get to that spot and hope that our edge rusher and Easley is still there. So the first overall pick in the draft, the Detroit Lions select Gabe Hatchett, right end out of Oregon. The Cincinnati Bengals with the second pick go with Rashard Hannon, a wide receiver, Oklahoma. Bucks at 3 select Carl Newby, quarterback out of Purdue. 49ers, 4th overall pick, Nicholas Montgomery, right outside linebacker, Virginia Tech. The Chargers at 5 go with a new quarterback in Shamir Gresham out of Iowa State. The Commanders, who do they go with at 6? Sheldon Shepard, another outside linebacker out of UCLA, which means our guy is here. Just going to pause the draft just for the sake of it. We can make our pick for Easley. Nothing crazy happening here, but there will be some craziness, I'm sure, coming with a future, not even really future, it's almost present pick or trade to get the pick of Tyquan McKee. But for Dion Easley, straightforward here. We're getting our edge rusher, 6'5", 243, 23 years old out of LSU. You can pause, take a look at the player notes. But the most important thing, he has speed. He has some strength, although the bench press disparity there between Pro Day and Combine is interesting. Also, the 3-cone, really different there. Not sure what's happening with it, but A, finesse moves is the important thing. A, pursuit does have B, awareness. Needs to work on his tackling. Stamina and injury, solid. I think he could be a great guy in trying to improve that pass rush, which is what we're trying to do here. So Dion Easley is a hidden dev with 81 strength, 84 speed, 83 jumping, 78 agility, and 91 acceleration. Will be fantastic off the edge. Wasn't thinking it would be a hidden dev, but I really appreciate it. However, this is where the trouble begins. Our next pick isn't until the 3rd round, about midway through at 15. So for us to trade up and get McKee can be very difficult. Again, they expected him to go at 20. If we look at all DTs, where does he sit? He is 2nd. So if Julian Ricard goes, then we need to pull the trigger on a trade. Not sure what it's all going to take. We have a lot of picks we could offer. We have some players we could offer as well. But we need to make sure we bring in Tyquan McKee. So I'm going to move forward a little bit here. If McKee ends up going, I'll show you. If we get to a point where the other DT goes, I'll show you, and then we'll try to pull the trigger for that trade. Again, they expect him to go at 20 to the Jags, so we'll at least be back for that. And there goes Julian Ricard to the Cowboys at 12. Now with the Texans, we could make a trade. And we've made a fantastic trade with the Texans in a different series, the Commanders Replacement Squad, to get the 2nd overall pick to bring in James Cody. So let's see what the Texans are wanting. So right now, the biggest need for the Texans is a quarterback, a right guard, a DT, a right tackle, or a left guard. So they need help on the offensive line. And we do have some guys we could potentially spare. We talked about at the end of last episode maybe trading Robert Hunt. However, they don't need a left tackle, they need a right tackle. They do need a left guard, right guard, Damian Lewis. Do we move on from him? It's a possibility. We could look to do that. We do have Ed Ingram, who seemingly played okay while being out there. We are not, however, going to trade away Lyle Collins. Max Mitchell could be a starter for us if we decide to trade one of the other tackles in Robert Hunt. So between the two offensive linemen that we are kind of okay with making a trade, who do they have the most interest in? and it's actually for the guard in Damian Lewis, which I think would be okay. So if we just wanted to make this trade straight up, I doubt they would. Where are we sitting? What all extra we do need to give up a good bit more? Now, I am just curious of how big the difference is between just a straight up third rounder, and it's really not that different between a third rounder and Damian Lewis. So, interesting. So we have 2 third-round picks, 3 fourths, 1 5, 2 6s, and a 7. Next year, we do not have our first-round pick. We traded that away for Danielle Hunter, and I don't think that's really panned out all too well for us. If we gave the 2 next year instead of the current 3, a lot more interest there, but even with that 3, I don't think it would get the job done. So unfortunately, I don't think the Texans are really going to be a good trade target here for us. So if we jump forward, the Texans go with a cornerback in Tremon Adkins. Now again, the mock draft 5 is pretty accurate. I'm not trying to cheese the game, but trying to make it to where we can maybe make an actual trade possible. So we're going to keep going here. Packers, they go with a left end, Greenberry out of Cal. At 15, the Ravens, they go with an offensive lineman, Krause out of Clemson. Titans at 16, they go with a receiver, Shirley, Iowa State. Colts at 17, they go with another receiver, Lynch out of Georgia. Now for the Bears at 18, they go cornerback, Douglas, Ohio State. Texans back again. So they had 2 first-round picks. They're being rather greedy. Maybe would be more open to trading for this second one. And again, putting Lewis back in the trade. I mean, more interested, not quite there yet. So the Texans very much want to make their picks. And with the 19th overall pick, they go with outside linebacker Ben Bryant. Now we're at pick 20. This is where they say our guy in McKee is going. So if we're going to make a trade, it needs to be now. Now they don't have much interest at all in Godshaw, so that is really disappointing. I was hoping they would actually have some decent amount of interest in him. I don't want to trade away Milton Williams. I think he was better for us than Godshaw. What if we offer our current 3 and our future 2? Where does that kind of put us? Actually not too far off, and we wouldn't lose any players, and we can maybe try to trade some players to get back some of these picks. But what will get the job done isn't 2 third-round picks this year. Instead, 1 third-round pick this year, a second-round pick next year, and a third-round pick next year. So we don't have any picks next year until the 4th round, unless we make some trades with our current picks. But either way, we are up to 20. We were able to get the job done. We push the Jaguars back, and this will allow us to make our pick for McKee, and he better play fantastic football. After going through all that just to try to bring him in, Tyquan McKee, a projected round 1 to 2, is actually a round 1. 6'4", 315, 22 years old, out of LSU. He has some pretty good looking attributes here. Strength even went up during his pro day, and he got faster. His skills has A, play recognition, tackle, and injury. B, awareness, block shedding, power moves, pursuit, hit power, and impact block. C, finesse moves with F, stamina. Tyquan McKee is not a hidden dev, a normal dev, but with 93 strength, 69 speed, 84 acceleration, and 68 agility and jumping. 53 change of direction is fine. I think he could be solid for us right in the middle. Hopefully we see that pan out. Now from here, do we try to make another trade to go after the safety that may be good, maybe isn't good? Kind of hard to tell. Maybe you would need to sit for a year and then be eligible to play. He's a projected round 1 to 2, actually around 2 to 3. We don't pick until the last pick in the 3rd round. So it's not looking all too likely that we get him, but we do have a lot of other picks in this draft, but I kind of want to package those up to move back into earlier rounds next season. So I think we're just going to move along here. If Doug Macklin falls to us, fantastic. If not, maybe start packaging up some trades, maybe for some players. We'll see, but let's move along. Now, after quite a long sim there to get to our next pick, 32nd in the 3rd round. Did perhaps the safety fall all the way down here? No, he does not. The only draftable player left here, Austin Bird, a linebacker, a run-stopping linebacker, round 3 to 4, actually a day 3. There was also an offensive lineman, Pat Harris, who does not look to have very interesting ratings. So I'm not all too interested in making any sort of trade here or any sort of pick here. I'm interested in looking for a trade. And that trade I want to be for Devin White. We've struggled in coverage across the middle, and he's going to have some good cover ability. 71 zone, 63 man is a little bit lower, but he has the speed. He could also tackle. Block shedding needs a little bit of work, but I think he could be really helpful for us, and we've gotten worse at linebacker with the regression of Quan Alexander. So let's see what we can get set up here for Devin White. Obviously, we're going to be giving up this 3rd round pick. Now, just straight up, where does this leave us? Significantly low. Now, if we package together 2 4th round picks, so they get 3 picks in this draft, they're still not liking it. So maybe we're not going to be able to get Devin White, at least with this setup. What about if we make a trade for Deion Jones? Going to be a few years older, still is going to have cover skills, and honestly even a little bit better cover skills. We're going to sacrifice a little bit of the run stopping. Will we be able to make a trade here? With him being older, I feel like that would be a higher possibility. It is with the Falcons though, so take that as you will. And we could maybe try to send them a 4th and a 6. Again, just trying to gauge their interest in this trade. That'll actually work. Deion Jones is going to come in, and we just gave up a 4th and a 6th round pick. And obviously with making that trade, we still have our 3rd round pick that we want to move on from. So let's see what we could do here if we package together some picks for some future picks. So that if we just want to trade away our 3, we could get a future 4. I'm looking for something in the 2nd round. So what all do we need to add to this group to get some options that actually move us into that 2nd round? We could essentially just trade to next year with the Eagles from a 96 pick to a 95th pick, but no one offering any 2nd round picks. Now, if we put together this group with the 3 and then our 2 4s, we're getting some players, and I'm not really trying to make any players. So that's telling me maybe I can get a 2nd round pick from somebody, but they obviously want to hold on to their picks, so they're offering players instead. Now, the Titans only have 1 more pick left in this season, so maybe they'd be more interested, and they are, but just not quite interested enough. So maybe what we could do instead, look for a 3rd and a 4 next season. They could get this handful, and yeah, we'll make that. So we'll push a couple picks for our next year. Maybe we could have got a little bit more on top of that, but I think that one is honestly fine. So let's jump ahead until the 5th round, see if there's anyone of interest in our class, and then we'll go from there. And after taking a look at these guys, I really don't think there's anything all too interesting for us to go after. They're all potential undrafted besides Pat Harris, and I don't think he has the stats that I'm looking for, the ratings that I'm looking for. So we have 3 picks left. That fills up a trade. We'll put together another one and see who might be interested. Now, I actually did forget. It's a good thing we did make that trade for the 3 and the 4, because we did not even have a 3rd round pick. So we do at least have the 3. Let's see if anyone has any interest for any trades. I don't want any players, but we could get a 4 and a 7 next year. Don't feel like that's really helping us out all too much. This one more intriguing from the Eagles is a 3 and a 7. Jaguars also offering a 3 next year, but a current 7. I don't need any more picks this year. However, thinking with the Jaguars pick, we get the 3 next year, a 7 this year. We then trade that 7 again at the end for maybe a 6 for the following season. I feel like that would probably be the best move to go with. So we will trade this group to the Jaguars, which will give us a 7th round still in this draft class, which we could then try to make another trade for. Now the question is anyone going to offer a future 6? I'm seeing a whole lot of 7s here. Can we fleece the system at all? It's not quite looking like it. Okay, so we have currently 212. Can we at least get something higher next year? There's 208 from the Browns. There's 202 from the Cowboys. And it looks like the Cowboys 202 is the best option, so we don't completely fleece the system there, but we at least move that 7th round pick up a little bit more for a pick I wanted next year, not this year. So that's it from the draft. You know, we draft the 2 players, but then we make some trades in the draft. I think that all ends up working out pretty well for us. So let's skip ahead to the end of this draft and get this defense situated. Or actually, before we even meet the change really to the defense, let's actually meet our new players, see how well they turned out. Again, we had one hidden dev, the other was not, and the overalls for Dion Easley is a 75, and McKee does end up being the higher overall 77, but the lower dev trade. So Dion Easley is coming in 76 with the coaching boost, the hidden dev. Rating wise, tackling and hit power, I mean, nothing really to write home about. The speed and acceleration could be solid off the edge, need to change the number. Pursuit looks good. Finesse comes in at an 81 with some run stopping ability at a 73. Block shedding, 81 strength off the edge, I think will be fantastic. Awareness at a 73. Injury and stamina look good. I mean, overall, I think just in general, looks good. Definitely need to change the number, so let's see what we could do here for Dion Easley. And how about this for the look of Dion Easley? Changing that number to number 1, coming off the edge. Looks like a Jordan guy as he got the Jordan cleats and the gloves. I think it's looking pretty good. Blacked out visor with the robot cage. Black mouth guard as well as a black eye paint stretching down. I think he looks intimidating off the edge, and I feel like that's what this team needs. But how about Tyquan McKee again? Also going to need to change that number. With the boost coming in at an 80 overall, again, just normal dev, and he is going to be an immediate starter. 97 strength, 81 block shedding, those 2 with some boost. 73 power moves should provide a little bit of some pass rush as well. Tackling in a solid spot, 84. The play rec at a 78. Awareness needs some work. Acceleration, though, is good. Injury, fantastic. Toughness is okay. Stamina, not, again, fantastic. From the middle, I think he'll be doing just fine. But let's give him a upgrade as well. I'm going to go with a much more simpler look here for McKee, although those cleats definitely flashy, but giving him my number 98. So hopefully he'll come through for us and help out this defensive line. But speaking of defense, let's meet what the new starting rotation, starting lineup should look like. We're still going to give Danielle Hunter the chance here. He has strength, so he'll be able to play on the inside, and he had a lot of tackles for a loss last year, but only 1.5 sacks. So if that's the role he wants to play, then fine. We're going to give him the chance to still rush the passer, though, just not from necessarily an outside spot. We'll kind of play that one a little bit by ear. But at left end, we're going to have Danielle Hunter and Braden Fehoko. Right end, Milton Williams is going to slide back out there with Rashard Lawrence backing him up. And then at DTs, Devon Godshaw and Tyquan McKee. Now, we probably will just straight up stick with Tyquan McKee as the all-around starter, no matter what formation we end up coming out in, even if it's a more of a 4-3 style front, just because we want to make sure McKee is getting as many of the stats as possible, because Godshaw really hasn't gotten the job done. So we're definitely going to focus in on McKee. We have Tyler Shelvin, Farrell Jr., Ruiz, and Williamson, all his backups. The bottom 2 will probably be practice squad players. At outside linebacker on the left side, Dion Easley is going to get the start there, with Patrick Johnson backing him up. Over on the right side, Arden Key moves there with Andre Anthony and another practice squad guy here in Chris Flynn. In the middle at a true linebacker spot, Patrick Queen, Deion Jones, Quan Alexander will be the top 3. Maybe Jacob Phillips will slowly take over that role from Alexander depending on how he plays after his regression. We also have Jabril Cox, Jacoby Stevens, and Carlos Woodard. Potentially, we might see a trade happen for Quan Alexander, maybe Jabril Cox. He is a trade target as player tag, and Jacoby Stevens as well, because we don't need all these linebackers, that is for sure. At corner, looking really good with Derek Stingley Jr. up top, Christian Fulton as that number 2, Greedy Williams as maybe the 3. If we take a look at who has the best tackling, it actually looks like Derek Stingley, so Stingley might slide into that slot role, and then on the outside we'll have Christian Fulton and Greedy Williams. That might work out pretty well for us. What is the hit power? Is also looking pretty good for Derek Stingley. He's also a candidate to maybe play safety at some point. And then Cordell Float will be the next man off the bench. We also had the draftee in Lyle Potts, who just really hasn't done all too well, even including in getting better. I mean, his cover skills are still really raw. And then Byron Reese will definitely just be a practice squad kind of player. Now at free safety, I talked about it earlier, hinted at it. We are bringing back Patrick Peterson, but he is not going to be playing corner. He's going to be playing free safety, meaning Jalen Mills could very well be traded as well. Amik Robertson could be traded because we do have Percy Butler. So a couple different trade options depending on what this next draft class is going to look like. Pete, I did take a look at the safety we skipped on in the draft, and these two look pretty similar from an athletic standpoint. Peterson is going to be a little bit taller and does have the better cover skills straight out the get-go. So that, I think, will work well for us for one more season. He'll probably retire after that, and hopefully through that time Percy Butler can get better, or maybe there'll be someone in the draft. Xavier Woods still going to be our starter at strong safety. Teamer could possibly be traded as well. He has that tag. And then Eric Williams, another draftee. I would like to see him get a little bit of time out there and start developing him as well. Kicker and punter, same as last year, Cade York and Ryan Wright. Now, before we could get to week 1 and actually take a look at what our next draft class is going to look like, we have to move 20 players. I think it's like 13 or so can go to the practice squad. It used to be 10, they changed it. But there's definitely going to be some other things to do besides just moving players to a practice squad. We're going to actually have to get rid of some guys as well. Now, starting at running back, we have our top 3. Then we have Jonathan Harris, who is a new pickup. He was an undrafted rookie. And there is Alexander Collier, who was a undrafted rookie the previous season. Now, he does not have much break tackle at all, so we're going to move on from Collier. You can't be a running back and not break a tackle. Harris will get moved to the practice squad. At tight end, we did bring in a couple undrafted guys in Nolan Diggs and Zach Bruce, both of which are going to get moved to the practice squad because Thaddeus Moss, being 26 years old and 62 overall, how much longer is he going to manage to stick on the roster? Now, when it comes to offensive linemen, if you're lower than a 60 overall, considering we got to get rid of a lot of guys, I'm just going to start making the cut. Now, at left guard, we do have quite a few different players here. And considering Sadiq Charles is 25 years old, I feel like he's maybe someone we might be able to get a trade for if anyone has any interest in him. And there are some offers that do come in. However, they're all for players and can't really do the players. I'm looking for more picks. So, well, there we go. The Vikings with a future 7 as well as a current 7. We can maybe do a little bit better, but I think that'll be fine. So that will thin the group a little bit, and we will stick with Chasen Hines, and Jason Parrish can go to the practice squad. We did bring in a new backup lineman here in Will Kinley, and he actually looks like he would be a better tackle than center, so I might need to make that adjustment. But Townsend is going to be cut because he's lower than 60. Now at right guard, we do have Chip Edmonds and Ed Ingram. Ingram is a primary backup for us, so Franklin will get moved to the practice squad. We've sent a lot of guys there, so we might need to thin that group out as well. And then right tackle, definitely want to keep around Max Mitchell as a potential starter, keep trying to develop him. Only 2 left ends, can't thin that out, only 2 right ends. Definitely some moves that could happen here at DT as we have our top 4 here. So then these 2 Williamson, I should say, and Ruiz can both head to the practice squad. Only 2 left outside linebackers. We have a lot of middle linebackers. I know that I would like to move Charles Woodard to the practice squad, as well as Anthony Torres. Then from there, Jacoby Stevens being a 64 overall, 26 years old, probably going to be someone we're going to need to cut. That leaves us with 5, and we'll stick with the 5 for now. Right outside linebacker Chris Flynn, lower than 60, probably going to be a cut candidate, and by probably I mean is. At corner, going to release Byron Reese, again lower than the 60, and then Steve Hatchett we will send to the practice squad. Now at free, Rocco Gore will be cut because he's lower than the 60. I want to keep Percy Butler. And then Jalen Mills, I do think we need to trade. Amik Robertson is someone we could trade. Butler is younger, just a few overall. Probably should look to trade, honestly, both of these guys. And for Amik Robertson, we're going to send him to the Chiefs for a 6th round pick. They needed a better backup. He'll fit that role pretty well. And very similarly with Mills, we'll be sending him to the Cowboys. They have a young free safety rookie, maybe second year guy. They're looking for someone to mentor him. Mills, pretty good for a 6th round pick. And that will get us down to the 53, so we can move on to week 1 and take a look at what this next upcoming draft class looks like. Is it going to be any better than what we've had? We'll find out in about 2 seconds. And this draft class is just a little bit smaller than our previous. Only 11 possible players for us to go after, but a lot more are actual draftable projections than not, which has been different than what we have seen. We'll go again by individual positions. Quarterback, nothing. Running back, nothing. 2 fullbacks, if we really feel like we need a fullback. Maybe one of them could play tight end, who knows. There is a round 1 to 2 receiver in Adrian Nance. 6'1", 178, very much fits the LSU style of receiver. Do we need a receiver? Not really, but who knows? We'll see how good he ends up being. There is a day 3 in Mitch Warner as well. Sub 6 foot, but actually slightly heftier than Nance, so interesting. There is an actual tight end though, round 3 to 4 projection in Newhouse, 6'3", 272. We could potentially use some backup tight ends at least. No left tackles. There is a left guard potential undrafted. No center. A day 3 right guard in Nick Stevens. And a right tackle round 1 projection Owen Hall. 6'4", 323. Potentially could be a replacement for our starting... our starting right tackle who's given up some sacks for sure. Who knows? Left end, nobody. Right end, nobody. DT, nobody. So no help for the defensive line. At linebacker, none on the left side, none in the middle, and none on the right. So the only players we could draft on defense will be in the secondary, probably one of our better spots. There is Theo Collier, a round 1 to 2 projection out of LSU, 5'11", 198. Could he potentially be a future free safety? Who knows? There's a day 3 man as well in Jason Evans, another 5'11", 190. We do need some help at free safety, and there's only potential undrafted, and then no strong safeties, no kicker, no punter. So there is some talent towards the top for sure. It's not exactly spread out talent, but there's some talent up top. But that will do it for us today. Defense has greatly been changed. New corner, new safety, new linebacker, 2 new players on the defensive line, including just overall changing of the defense from a 4-3 to a 3-4. We really didn't do anything on offense. If the offense still does not perform with changing to the Cincinnati playbook, the playbook that Burrow uses in real life, and being an 85 overall offense, then I don't know what to do. Trade Jefferson, maybe try to bring in Jamar Chase instead. Maybe that would help her. I don't know. There's really not much to really change on offense. We have some of the best possible players we can. I guess the only other thing would be to also have Chase and Jefferson. To do that, we would have to trade away maybe some starting offensive linemen, which we can do. We have some backups that I think could make that work, and some picks as well. I don't know. That's the only other thing I could think of. For the most part, we have some of the best possible offensive players we can. Defense, is changing. Hopefully we'll see that bring an immediate impact, and all that will be next episode. So make sure you stick around so you don't miss on how well this team hopefully starts to play, knock on wood. We open up the season with a rivalry match against the Falcons, so make sure you hit that bear icon in the bottom right or scroll down and hit the actual subscription button right next to the bell icon, which you should also hit so you're notified of when this series goes live and all my other videos. This series posted every Wednesday and Saturday. The Commanders Replacement Squad series every Monday and Thursday, which you do not want to miss. They're in the playoffs for the first time. And then on Tuesdays and Fridays, as we start the wrapping up process of the FIFA 23 My Player career, which will shift over to a Create a Club. So if you're interested in FIFA, make sure you check that one out. 6 full-length videos every single week, plus all the shorts highlighting everything that's happening. A lot of content. Hope you guys enjoyed this off season, and we'll debut some really good new, fingers crossed, players on defense next time. So until then, we'll see you guys later. Bye.